There's a moment that comes for everyone. Maybe it's late at night, phone in hand, scrolling through messages that aren't coming. Maybe it's a Saturday afternoon with nothing planned, no one calling, no one checking in. Maybe it's after a breakup, a falling out, a move to a new city where no one knows your name yet. And in that moment, you feel it. The ache, the question, am I enough, alone? You've been taught that your peace depends on other people, on their attention, their approval, their love, on constant messages, constant reassurance, constant proof that you matter. But here's the truth. They never told you. You don't need anyone to complete you. You were already whole. This audiobook is not about becoming a loner. It's about becoming emotionally free. It's about building a foundation of peace so solid that no one can shake it. It's about learning to feel better every single day. Not because someone validated you, but because you've learned to validate yourself. You are enough alone. Let's discover what that feels like by straightaway moving to Chapter 1, the validation trap. Why you keep looking for proof you already have. Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you checked your phone hoping for a message? When was the last time you posted something and waited for the likes? When was the last time you felt a little less without someone's attention? If you're honest, it was probably today, maybe an hour ago, maybe right before you hit play. You are not waiting to be enough. You already are. Say that again. You are not waiting to be enough. You already are. Here's the trap. You were conditioned for this. Since childhood, you've been taught that your worth comes from outside. Good grades meant you were smart. Praise meant you were good. Likes meant you were liked. Attention meant you mattered. Your brain learned outside approval, safety, outside validation, worth, outside attention, existence. So now you chase, you post, you wait, you check, you refresh. You feel the hit when it comes. You feel the emptiness when it doesn't. You're exhausted, and you can't stop. That's the validation trap. The problem with external validation is simple. It's never enough. You get one like, you want 10. You get 10, you want 100. You get one compliment, you need another. The more you get, the more you need. It's a hunger that can't be filled from outside. It's a hole with no bottom. You have a choice. Keep chasing and keep being exhausted, or recognize that you've been looking for something you already have. That's the key. Think about it. Did you need someone to tell you that your heartbeat matters? Did you need a like to know that your breath is real? Did you need a message to prove that you exist? No. Your worth was never missing. You just forgot it was there. You've been searching for permission to be enough when the permission was always yours. You are not waiting to be enough. You already are. Let me give you a real example. Sarah, a USA citizen, spends her evenings scrolling, waiting for her friend to text back, waiting for her post to get likes, waiting for someone to notice. Her whole evening depends on what comes in. When it comes, she feels relief. When it doesn't, she feels empty. Sarah's peace is on loan from other people. Marcus, a Canadian, does the same thing. But one day, he notices. He sees himself checking his phone for the 10th time. He sees his mood swinging based on notifications. He sees the trap. Marcus makes a choice. He puts his phone in another room. He sits with the silence. It's uncomfortable at first. The urge to check is strong. But he stays. He breathes. He asks himself, what do I feel right now? Without anyone telling me what to feel. The silence is hard. But in that silence, Marcus finds something. Himself. Not the version of him that performs for others. Just him. And he's still there. still breathing, still worthy. That's the first step, noticing the trap, choosing to sit with yourself, remembering that you were always enough. It's not about needing less, it's about remembering what you already have. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to be enough. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk, no fluff. Action 1. The 24-hour validation audit. For one day, notice every time you seek external validation, every scroll, every check, every hope for a message. Don't judge it, just notice, see the pattern. Action 2. The phone. Pause. Pick 1 hour today where your phone is in another room. No checking, no scrolling, just you and your own thoughts. Feel the discomfort. Let it be there. Notice what's underneath. Action 3. The worth reminder. Say this out loud, right now. I am not waiting to be enough. I already am. Say it until you feel a crack in the old story. Let it land. Action 4. The permission. Give. Give yourself permission to be enough without proof. No likes required. No messages required. No approval required. Your permission is the only permission you need. You are not waiting to be enough. You already are. This is the foundation. Everything else builds from here. You've been looking outside for something that was always inside. The search is over. You can stop chasing. You can rest. Now, with this truth in your bones, we need to look at what happens when the noise stops, when the phone is quiet, when you're alone with yourself. What does that silence reveal? Moving to Chapter 2, the alone test. What your silence reveals about you. And look, if this chapter hit you where you live, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done chasing validation and ready to come home to themselves. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're remembering who you are. Subscribe now. You're already enough. Coming over to the Chapter 2, which is the alone test and what your silence reveals about you. Let me ask you something honest. How do you feel when the phone stops buzzing? When the calendar is empty? When there's no one to call, no one texting, no one expecting anything from you? When you're alone with your own thoughts? If you're like most people, that silence feels uncomfortable, maybe terrifying, maybe unbearable. Your discomfort with silence is not a weakness. It's a doorway. Say that again. Your discomfort with silence is not a weakness. It's a doorway. Here's what most people never realize. Your reaction to being alone is a mirror. It's showing you what's been hiding beneath all the noise, all the distraction, all the constant input. If you panic when the phone stops buzzing, it means you've been using distraction to escape yourself. The noise was a shield. Without it, you're face to face with something you've been running from. If you feel empty when the calendar is clear, it means you've been filling your life with other people's energy instead of your own. You've been borrowing their presence to avoid your own absence. If you reach for your phone the second you're alone, it means you're afraid of what you might find in the silence. Here's the truth that changes everything. That discomfort is not punishment. It's information. It's showing you where you've been disconnected from yourself. It's pointing to the places that need your attention. You have a choice. Keep running from the silence and stay dependent on distraction. Or walk through the doorway and find yourself on the other side. That's the key. Think about it. When was the last time you sat with yourself? Not thinking about what you should be doing, not planning what you'll post, not rehearsing conversations, just you, present. Still, for most people, the answer is never, or so long ago they can't remember. Your life has been filled with noise. Work noise, social noise, relationship noise, phone noise. All of it keeping you from the one person you've been avoiding, yourself. The person who can be alone without being lonely has a power that no one can take away. Not because they don't need people, because they don't depend on people to feel whole. Their center is inside, not in the phone, not in the crowd, not in the constant buzz of external input. This is the foundation of emotional independence. Learning to sit with yourself, to feel your own presence, to discover that you're still there, even when no one else is. Your discomfort with silence is not a weakness. It's a doorway. Let me give you a real example. Maria's weekends used to be packed. Friends, plans, events, constant motion. When a Saturday opened up with nothing scheduled, she panicked. She'd text everyone, scroll endlessly, fill the silence with anything. One day she decided to stop running. She put her phone away. She sat on her couch. The silence was loud. Her mind raced. She wanted to reach for anything to fill the space, but she didn't. She sat with the discomfort. And slowly, underneath the noise, she found something. Not emptiness, not loneliness. Herself. Quiet. Present. Still there. That was the beginning. Now Maria schedules alone time. She's learned that the silence isn't scary. It's where she meets herself. It's not about being alone forever. It's about being able to be alone at all. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to sit with yourself. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk, no fluff. Action 1, the 30-minute sit. Tomorrow for 30 minutes, put your phone away. No music, no podcast, no distraction, just you and your thoughts. Notice what comes up. Don't judge it. Just observe. Action 2, the reflection. Question. After your sit, ask yourself, what did I feel? What was I running from? What did I discover? Write it down. Let the silence speak. Action 3, the discomfort, embrace. When you feel the urge to reach for your phone, pause. Instead of acting, ask, what am I avoiding right now? Let the question sit. Action 4, the doorway reminder. Every time you feel uncomfortable in silence, say, this discomfort is not weakness. It's a doorway. I'm walking through. Your discomfort with silence is not a weakness. It's a doorway. This is the practice. Not perfect silence, just willingness to sit with what's there, to stop running, to meet yourself. The person on the other side of that doorway is waiting for you. They've been waiting a long time. Now, with the doorway open, we need to build something inside. An anchor that holds steady when the world is unpredictable, when people come and go, when validation doesn't come. Moving to chapter 3, the inner anchor, building a self that doesn't need approval. And look, if this chapter showed you that your discomfort is not a weakness, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done running and ready to meet themselves. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're walking through the doorway. Subscribe now. What's on the other side is you. It's time for the chapter 3, the inner anchor, building a self that doesn't need approval. Let me tell you what you need more than anything else. Not love, not validation, not approval. An anchor, Something inside you that holds steady when the world is unpredictable, when people disappoint you, when messages don't come, when the crowd sways and you're standing alone. This anchor is your own self-worth. They're rooted in something deeper than performance, deeper than approval, deeper than what anyone thinks of you. Your approval is the only approval you need. Say that again. Your approval is the only approval you need. Here's what most people never learn. External approval is a moving target. One day they love you, the next day they don't. One day you're enough, the next day you're not. You can't build a foundation on shifting sand, but internal approval, that's solid, that's yours. No one can give it to you, no one can take it away. It's the anchor that holds. You have a choice. Keep building your worth on other people's opinions and keep getting tossed around, or build an anchor inside that nothing can shake. That's the key. Let's talk about how you actually build this anchor. Stop asking, what do they think? Start asking, what do I think? Your opinion matters. Not because it's always right, because it's yours. You've been outsourcing your judgment. For so long you forgot you had any. Bring it back. When you make a decision, check in with yourself. Does this feel right to me? Not to your mom, not to your friends, not to Instagram, to you. When you succeed, celebrate yourself, not for the applause. Because you know you did something real. When you fail, hold yourself, not because someone else comforted you, because you know how to be your own support. Stop measuring your value by external metrics. Start measuring by internal ones. Here's a new scoreboard. Did I act with integrity today? Did I honor my own needs? Did I show up for myself when it was hard? Did I speak my truth? Did I stay true to my values? These are questions only you can answer. And the answers build an anchor that no external validation can match. Your anchor becomes stronger every time you choose your own approval over someone else's. Every time you stay grounded when the crowd is swaying. Every time you trust yourself when no one else is cheering. Every time you look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you, without waiting for anyone else to say it first. That's how you build. One choice at a time. One moment of self-trust at a time. One act of self-validation at a time. Your approval is the only approval you need. Let me give you a real example. David used to live for external validation. Every decision went through the filter. What will they think? He posted for likes, dressed, for approval, made choices based on what would get him praise. His self-worth was on loan from everyone else. One day he caught himself. He was about to do something he didn't want to do, just to avoid disappointing someone. He stopped. He asked himself, what do I think? What do I want? The answer was simple. He wanted to say no. So he did. No explanation, no apology, just no. It felt terrifying. Then it felt freeing. That was the first brick in his anchor. Now David checks with himself first. Not to be selfish, to be anchored. His self-worth is his own. He approves of himself, and that approval is solid. It's not about never seeking input. It's about not needing permission. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to approve of yourself. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk, no fluff. Action 1, the internal check. For 1 week, before any decision, ask, what do I think? Not, what will they think? Just, what do I think? Let your voice speak first. Action 2, the internal scoreboard. At the end of each day, Ask yourself, did I act with integrity? Did I honor my own needs? Did I show up for myself? Score yourself. Only you get to see it. Action 3. The self-validation practice. Look in the mirror tonight. Say, I approve of myself, not because of what I did today, because I'm choosing to. Say it until you mean it. Action 4. The anchor choice. The next time you feel the pull to seek approval, pause. Choose your own approval instead. Let that choice strengthen your anchor. Your approval is the only approval you need. This is the anchor. It doesn't move when people do. It doesn't shake when opinions change. It's yours, and no one can take it. Now, with your anchor set, we need to look at where your energy has been going, because you've been leaking power your whole life. It's time to reclaim it. Moving to Chapter 4, the energy audit. Reclaiming what you've been giving away. And look, if this chapter just showed you how to build an anchor, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done seeking approval and ready to give it to themselves. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're building something no one can shake. Subscribe now. Your approval is enough. Chapter 4. We'll carry out the energy audit. Reclaiming what you've been giving away. Let me ask you something that might hurt a little. Where does your energy go? Not your money, not your time, your energy, your attention, your peace. Where does it leak? Think about it. Every time you check your phone hoping for a message, your energy leaves. Every time you wait for someone to text back, your peace leaves. Every time you perform for approval, your authenticity leaves. Every time you refresh, scroll, hope, wait, you're giving away pieces of yourself. Your energy is your most precious resource. Stop giving it away for free. Say that again. Your energy is your most precious resource. Stop giving it away for free. Here's what most people never realize. You've been bleeding energy your whole life, and you didn't even know it. You thought you were just checking your phone. You thought you were just waiting for a response. You thought you were just hoping someone would notice. But every check is a leak. Every wait is a drain. Every hope is a hole in your peace. You have a choice. Keep leaking energy and wonder why you're exhausted, or plug the holes and reclaim what's yours. That's the key. Let's do an energy audit right now. Where is your attention going? Not where you want it to go. Where is it actually going? To the phone? To the unread message? To the person who hasn't called? To the post waiting for likes? Name it. Who are you waiting to hear from? Your partner, your friend, your boss, your family. Someone you haven't heard from in days? Who has your attention on hold? What are you performing for? Who are you being for? Who are you trying to impress? Who are you trying to please? Whose approval are you chasing? What are you checking? Your messages, your notifications, your feed, your email. What are you refreshing, hoping, waiting for? Each of these is a leak. Each one drains you. Each one takes energy that could be yours and gives it to something outside yourself. This is why you're exhausted. Not because life is hard, because you've been giving your energy away to people and things that can't fill you back up. Your energy is your most precious resource. Stop giving it away for free. Let me give you a real example. Tara spent her days waiting for texts, waiting for calls, waiting for someone to notice her. She'd check her phone constantly. Her energy was scattered across a dozen conversations that hadn't happened yet. She was exhausted. One day, she did the audit. She noticed where her attention was going. To her ex, who wasn't calling. To her friend, who hadn't replied. to her boss who hadn't praised her. All these people had her energy on loan, and she was running on empty. Tara made a choice. She stopped checking, not forever, just for a day. She redirected her attention inward. She asked herself, what do I need? What do I want? What feels good right now? It was hard at first. Her hand kept reaching for the phone. But she practiced, and slowly her energy came back. She felt fuller. She felt calmer. She felt like herself again. It's not about not caring about people. It's about not letting them drain you. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to reclaim your energy. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk. No fluff. Action 1. The energy audit. Take a piece of paper. Write down, where does my energy go? List every person, every app, every habit that gets your attention. Be honest. See the leaks. Action 2. The plug. Pick one leak. Just one. Maybe it's checking your phone first thing in the morning. Maybe it's waiting for a specific person to text. Maybe it's refreshing your feed. For 1 week, plug that leak. Redirect that energy to yourself. Action 3. The return ritual. Every time you feel your energy drifting outward, bring it back. Take a breath. Say, my energy is mine. I'm bringing it home. Feel it return. Action 4. The ownership statement. Say this out loud. My attention is mine. My peace is mine. My energy is mine. I stop giving it away for free. Your energy is your most precious resource. Stop giving it away for free. This is the reclaiming, not selfish, essential. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. Fill yourself first, then give from overflow, not emptiness. Now, with your energy reclaimed, we need to build the daily practices that make this permanent, not a one-time fix, a way of living. Moving to Chapter 5, the daily practice, feeling better without anyone else. And look, if this chapter just showed you where your energy has been going, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done being drained and ready to be full. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're reclaiming your life. Subscribe now. Your energy is yours. Keep it. Our next chapter is Chapter 5, the daily practice. Feeling better without anyone else. Let me tell you the secret that changes everything. Emotional independence is not a destination. It's not something you arrive at one day and never have to think about again. It's a daily practice, a series of small choices, tiny acts of self-possession, little moments where you choose yourself over the noise. You can't give what you don't have. Fill yourself first. Say that again. You can't. Give what you don't have. Fill yourself first. Here's what most people get wrong. They think emotional freedom comes from a big breakthrough, a moment of clarity, a sudden shift. But breakthroughs don't last. Practices do. The person who feels good alone isn't the one who had one big realization. They're the one who shows up for themselves every day. You have a choice. Wait for the big moment and stay stuck, or build the daily practice and become free. That's the key. Let's talk about what that practice looks like. Morning grounding. Before you check your phone, before you read messages, before you let the world in, you give yourself time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just you, your breath, your body. Your presence. You don't wait for someone else to start your day. You start it yourself. Self-validation. Check-ins. Throughout the day, you pause. You ask, what do I need right now? Not what someone else needs from you. What you need. Hunger, rest, movement, quiet. You listen. You respond. You become the one who takes care of you. Setting boundaries. You say no without explaining. You say not right now without apologizing. You say, I'm not available without justifying. Your time is yours. Your energy is yours. You don't need a reason to protect it. Digital detox. Time without input from others. No notifications, no messages, no scrolling. Just you and your own thoughts. An hour, an afternoon, a day. You remember what it feels like to be present without distraction. Solo rituals. Things you do just for you. No audience, no posting, no sharing. A walk, a bath, a book, a meal cooked with attention, a creative project. Something that fills you, not because someone sees it, but because you experienced it. These are not selfish. They're essential. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give to others what you don't have for yourself. Every time you fill yourself, you're not taking from anyone. You're preparing to give from overflow instead of emptiness. You can't give what you don't have. Fill yourself first. Let me give you a real example. Elena used to wake up and immediately reach for her phone. Messages, notifications, the world's demands. By 8 a.m., she was already responding to everyone else's needs. By noon, she was empty. She decided to change, one small practice at a time. First, morning grounding. 15 minutes before the phone, just her, coffee, the quiet. It felt uncomfortable. At first, her hand twitched for the screen, but she stayed. Then, self-validation check-ins. Throughout the day, she'd pause and ask, what do I need? Sometimes it was rest, sometimes it was movement, sometimes it was to say no. She started honoring those needs. Then, boundaries. She started saying no without explanation, no to plans she didn't want, no to requests that drained her, no to people who took without giving. Then solo rituals, a walk without her phone, a bath without distraction, a meal cooked just for her. Elena didn't become selfish, she became full. And from that fullness, she could actually show up for others without losing herself. It's not about never giving. It's about giving from fullness, not emptiness. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to build a daily practice. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk, no fluff. Action 1. Pick one practice. Don't try to do all 5. Pick one. Morning grounding, self-validation check-ins, boundaries, digital detox, solo rituals. Just one. Do it every day for 30 days. Action 2. The 10-minute morning. Tomorrow before you check your phone, give yourself 10 minutes. Just you. No input. No output. Feel the difference. Action 3. The check-in alarm. Set a recurring alarm for midday. When it goes off, pause. Ask, what do I need right now? Then give it to yourself. Even something small. Action 4. One boundary. This week, say no to one thing you don't want to do. No explanation. No apology. Just no. Let it be practice. You can't give what you don't have. Fill yourself first. This is the daily practice. Not perfect, just consistent. Not dramatic, just real. Small choices every day, building a foundation that no one can shake. Now, with the practice in place, we need to explore the difference between loneliness and solitude. One drains. One fills. One is emptiness. One is richness. Moving to chapter 6, the alone that heals, turning solitude into strength. And look, if this chapter just gave you a practice that can change everything, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done waiting to be filled and ready to fill themselves. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're building a daily practice. Subscribe now. Fill yourself first. Moving to our second last chapter. Chapter 6. The alone that heals. Turning solitude into strength. Let me make a distinction that could change your entire relationship with being alone. There's loneliness, and there's solitude. They are not the same thing. Loneliness is the ache of missing connection. It's the feeling of emptiness when you're by yourself. It's the weight of wanting someone there who isn't. Loneliness drains you. Solitude is different. Solitude is the richness of being present with yourself. It's the fullness of your own company. It's the peace of not needing anyone to fill the space. Solitude fills you. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the space where you become full. Say that again. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the space where you become full. Here's what most people never learn. You can be lonely in a crowd and fulfilled alone. The number of people around you doesn't determine your peace. Your relationship with yourself does. Loneliness happens when you're disconnected from yourself. Solitude happens when you're connected to yourself. One is absence. One is presence. You have a choice. Keep fearing the silence and stay dependent on others, or learn to be with yourself and become free. That's the key. Solitude is where you discover who you actually are, without the filters, without the performance, without the noise of other people's opinions. When it's just you, the masks fall away. The real you emerges. In solitude, your true desires surface. Not the desires you perform for others, not the desires you've adopted from culture, your real desires. What you actually want, what you actually care about. In solitude, your real voice appears. Not the voice that pleases, not the voice that avoids conflict, not the voice that seeks approval, your voice. What you actually think, what you actually believe. In solitude, your unshakable self takes shape. The part of you that doesn't depend on anyone else. The core that remains when all the roles fall away. This is not about being alone forever. It's about being so whole that your relationships become choices, not needs. You connect from fullness, not emptiness. You love without losing yourself. You show up because you want to, not because you can't bear to be alone. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the space where you become full. Let me give you a real example. James spent years avoiding being alone. He filled his calendar, his phone, his life with people. But underneath the activity, he was lonely. He didn't know who he was without someone else around. He decided to try solitude. Not a weekend alone. That felt too big. Just an hour. He put his phone away. He sat in his living room. No music, no podcast, just him. The first 10 minutes were uncomfortable. His mind raced. His hand reached for his phone, but he stayed. 20 minutes in, something shifted. The noise in his head quieted. He felt something underneath. Not emptiness, presence, himself. He kept practicing. An hour a week, then 2, then a whole afternoon. He started to look forward to his solitude, not because he was avoiding people, because he was meeting himself. James still has people in his life. More now, actually. But his relationships are different. He's not desperate for connection. He's not performing for approval. He's whole. So when he shows up, he brings his whole self, not a needy self, a full self. It's not about being alone. It's about being whole when you're alone. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to be alone with yourself. Let me give you your action plan for this chapter. Real talk, no fluff. Action 1, the solitude hour. This week, schedule 1 hour alone. No phone, no distraction, no company, just you. Sit with yourself. See what comes up. Action 2, the feeling check. During your solitude, notice what you feel, not what you think you should feel, what you actually feel. Discomfort? Peace? Restlessness? Calm? Let it be there. Don't judge it. Action 3, the discovery question. Ask yourself, what do I actually want? What do I actually think? Who am I without anyone watching? Let the answers come. They've been waiting. Action 4, the solitude commitment. Commit to making solitude a regular practice. Once a week, twice a week, not to escape people, to return to yourself. Solitude is not emptiness. It's the space where you become full. This is the practice. Not running from yourself, meeting yourself in the silence, in the stillness, in the space where no one else is there to define you. The person on the other side of that solitude is waiting for you. They've been waiting a long time. Now, with solitude as strength, we arrive at the final destination, the unshakable self. The person who lives free from external approval, not cold, not disconnected, just whole. Moving to chapter 7, the unshakable self, living free from external approval. And look, if this chapter just showed you that solitude is not emptiness, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done running from themselves and ready to meet who's there. You're not just listening to an audiobook, you're becoming whole. Subscribe now. The person waiting for you is you. With this, we have reached to our last and final chapter. Chapter 7, the unshakable self. Living free from external approval. Let me paint you a picture of a life you might not have imagined possible. Imagine waking up in the morning and your mood doesn't depend on who texted you back. Imagine your peace doesn't hinge on someone's approval. Imagine your day isn't determined by who noticed you, who praised you, who validated you. Imagine waking up already whole, already enough, already free. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. Say that again. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. This is not about becoming cold. It's not about pushing people away. It's not about never needing anyone. That's not freedom. That's armor. This is about becoming so grounded in yourself that you can connect without clinging. You can love without losing yourself. You can be present without needing. You show up because you want to, not because you're desperate to fill a hole. Your relationships become richer because you're bringing your full self, not your needy self, not your performing self, not your approval-seeking self. Just you, whole, enough, present. This is the ultimate freedom, knowing that no one can give you what you already have. You don't need someone to complete you. You're not missing pieces. The love you were looking for, it's not out there. It was always in here. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. Think about what that means. No one can take what you've built. Your worth is yours, not on loan from anyone, not dependent on anyone's opinion, not subject to anyone's approval. It's yours. Built by you, owned by you, kept by you. Your peace is yours, not dependent on the phone buzzing, not dependent on someone choosing you, not dependent on the crowd's approval. It's yours. Cultivated by you, protected by you, non-negotiable. Your life is yours, not lived for an audience, not performed for approval, not shaped by what others expect. It's yours. To live as you choose, to feel as you see fit, to be as you are. This is the unshakable self, the person who can be alone without being lonely, who can connect without clinging, who can love without losing, who can be present without needing. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. Let me give you a final example. Maya spent her life looking outside for approval, for love, for someone to tell her she was enough. She poured her energy into relationships, into pleasing, into proving, and she was exhausted, empty, always waiting for the next fix. She started the work, the validation trap, the alone test, the inner anchor, the energy audit, the daily practice, the solitude that heals. Step by step, she stopped looking outside. She started looking in. She found someone there, not the performance, not the mask, just her, present, whole, enough. Now Maya's life looks different. She still has relationships, deeper ones actually. She doesn't cling, she doesn't perform, she doesn't need, she just shows up as herself. Her peace is hers. No one can shake it. Her worth is hers. No one can take it. Her life is hers. She's living it. It's not about never needing anyone. It's about not needing anyone to be whole. You are strong. You are intelligent. You are the master of your own world. You don't need anyone's permission to be whole. Well, let me give you your final action plan. Real talk. No fluff. Action 1. The whole statement. Look in the mirror tonight. Say, I was already whole. I just forgot. Now I remember. Say it until it cracks open something inside. Action 2. The freedom check. When you feel the pull to seek approval, pause. Ask, what am I looking for out there that I already have in here? Bring your attention back home. Action 3. The full self experiment. In your next interaction, bring your full self, not the performing self, not the pleasing self, just you. See what happens when you show up whole. Action 4. The daily reminder. Every morning say, my worth is mine. My peace is mine. My life is mine. I am whole. I am enough. I am free. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember, this is the end of the journey, not because you've arrived at some perfect state, because you've remembered what was always there. You don't need to become enough. You already are. You don't need to find wholeness. You already have it. You don't need to earn peace. It's already yours. The search is over. The chasing can stop. The waiting is done. You were already whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. Go live like you know it. And if this journey reminded you of what was always there, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done looking outside and ready to come home. You're not just listening to an audiobook. You're remembering who you are. Subscribe now. You were already whole. Now go live like it. So here's the truth they never told you. You've spent your whole life looking outside for something that was always inside. Waiting for someone to tell you you're enough. Hoping for approval, craving validation. But you were never missing anything. You were never broken. You were never incomplete. You were just forgetting. Forgetting that your worth was yours, your peace was yours, your life was yours. The phone will buzz, people will come and go, some will stay, some won't. That's life. But your center, that's yours to keep. You are enough alone. Not because you don't need people, because you're not dependent on them, because your foundation is solid. Because you've learned to sit with yourself, to validate yourself, to fill yourself. This is freedom. This is strength. This is you. You were already whole. Now go live like it. And look, if this message resonated with you, hit subscribe. Every week, more real talk for the person who's done waiting for someone else to fill them up. You're not just listening to an audiobook. You're coming home to yourself. Subscribe now. You're already enough.